Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Liv. In one of my previous videos, I asked the question, what would make an American, someone who once swore allegiance to the United States, betray their own country, their fellow citizens, and even attempt to undermine the Constitution itself? The answer is simple: accountability. When corrupt individuals are confronted with the consequences of their own wicked, self serving behavior, they will often turn against the very nation and people they once claimed to serve. Historically, the Confederate Democrats proved this. Their loyalty was never to the Union, the Constitution, or the American people, only to their own financial interests and desire for power and control over other human beings. But even in that dark chapter, not all leaders lost their integrity. Many American Republicans who held political power during that time could clearly see who remained faithful to the nation's ideals and who did not. And they stayed loyal even through mistreatment and hostility. One moment that revealed this divide was the Dred Scott case. Many people don't know how deeply the American public, both black and white, was outraged by that decision. The American people wanted justice for Dred Scott and for Black Americans who were being denied their God given rights. And they had also witnessed their unwavering loyalty. Dred Scott's former enslaver, Peter Blow, had children who knew Dred Scott personally. The Blow brothers were childhood friends of Scott. They helped pay for his legal fees throughout his fight for freedom. They weren't alone providing help. Montgomery Blair and other white allies also stepped in to help support him. So when Scott lost his case, the outrage was not limited to Black Americans. Many white Americans were equally devastated and angered by this injustice. After the Supreme Court's ruling in 1857, the Blow family purchased the freedom of Dred Scott, his wife, and their family. While he died 9 months later, his story ended not in bondage but in freedom. The Blow family and others who help is a reminder that there are still families like that today. I know this to be true. I've spoken about my grandparents and the wonderful and loving relationships they had with many white people, relationships that still exist within my family today. I wasn't raised to hate anyone based on skin color. I was raised to know who the real enemies are because people of any race or ethnicity can harbor hateful, oppressive, or wicked intentions. And yes, many white Americans were threatened, harmed, and even killed for standing up for what was right. Their sacrifices are rarely mentioned, but they are part of our history and the truth. This is why freedom of speech is so important. Our ancestors' voices have been threatened before and silenced before. We cannot allow that to happen again. I felt it was important to bring this up because if you follow their narrative, you would think that being a Black American means you have no allies and that all white people are against you. That kind of messaging conditions you to grow up with hate in your heart and to hate your own country. Unfortunately, it has been happening for far too long. So after the Union won the Civil War, America fulfilled its promise to Black Americans by returning the Dred Scott decision. Most people only know about Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, the parts about citizenship, due process, and equal protection, but the 14th Amendment actually contains 5 sections, and some of them are almost never talked about. Yet those overlooked sections carry the consequences that were put in place to hold the Democratic Party accountable for their actions. So let's start with Section 2 of the 14th Amendment. Representation and voting rights. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their representative numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. But when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for president and vice president is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state, being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States. The basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the proportion which the number of much male citizens shall bear the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in such state, meaning it tied representation in Congress to the number of eligible male voters in a state. It punished states that denied Black men the right to vote by reducing their seats in Congress. At the time, Native Americans, which are Indians, not taxed, were excluded from the count. To be clear, Section 2 of the 14th Amendment was explicitly designed to protect Black political power. It said that if a state denied Black men the right to vote, they would lose seats in Congress. Section 3, disqualification of Confederate officials. No person shall be senator or representative in Congress, or elector of president and vice president, or hold any office who having previously taken an oath to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or give aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each office, remove such disability, meaning they don't even want anyone offering them comfort or relief for betraying the Constitution. They banned former Confederate Democratic leaders from holding U.S. office unless Congress forgave them by 2/3 vote. The law intent was to prevent pro slavery Confederate Democratic groups and individuals who betrayed the Union from ever regaining political power after the Civil War. Section 4, Public Debt and Confederate Claims. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law shall not be questioned. But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss of emancipation of any slave. But all such debts, obligations, and claims should be held illegal and void, meaning guaranteed the Union's debt for the Civil War would be honored and forbids payment of Confederate debts or compensation to former slave owners for freed slaves. Essentially said, the Union wins, the Confederacy financial claims are void. Section 5, Enforcement Power. The Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislations the provision of the articles, meaning this gives Congress the authority to pass laws ensuring the 14th Amendment is followed. For example, the Civil Rights Act and later voting rights laws. The 14th Amendment and all of its sections went through Congress, was debated on, voted on, and fully enacted through the constitutional lawmaking process. And during that time, there was no confusion about who this amendment was created to protect. Black Americans, its purpose was explicit. And this ties back to my earlier question about why some Americans would betray their own nation. The answer becomes clear when you understand the reaction to the 14th Amendment in its sections. Those who supported the Confederacy were furious because this new law stripped them of the power they once held over Black Americans. It dismantled the entire system they built, a system rooted in slavery, brutality, exploitation, and control. They had attempted to break away from the Union and set up their own government to preserve slavery for financial gain. After losing the war, they were not compensated for the wealth they had accumulated through enslaving Black Americans. On top of that, they faced punishment. Many were barred from holding political positions or positions of power ever again. These consequences held them accountable for the lives lost and for rebelling against the nation. They were angry because the country, Black Americans, and many white Americans united in support of justice. Their entire operation collapsed. Their political power collapsed and their worldview collapsed. If this wasn't enough, in my next video, I will be discussing additional enforcement measures that push them even further over the edge. And this will give you the full picture of why I believe it connects directly to the Won Kim Ark case and how it continues to impact the present day. Thank you all for your support. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you in my next video.